Namaste everybody. I just wanted to make a video. I still have people pushing for me to make these videos and talk about different things. So I just wanted to touch on a few things that have been coming up for people that I've been connecting with, and a lot of what I'm seeing play out. I'm back on social media, and it's been interesting to be away for a few months and then come back and have this whole COVID-19 transpire, and to watch people going through an awakening process on many levels and going down the rabbit hole, which I enjoy sometimes doing myself. And that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss today, was going down the rabbit hole and what that actually means. And I know that there's a lot of conspiracy theories, if you will, and I don't mind being considered a conspiracy theorist myself, if that's what sometimes someone wants to think that I am, because I like to learn about different things and make up my own mind about what I'm reading. And that's a process that is referred to as discernment. You know, an old soul on this spiritual journey, then I'm sure you've heard the word and you're well into your practice. And if you're new, it just means basically that you're taking thoughts, different ideas, different concepts, and you're mulling them over to a point that you can discern the truth. And sometimes it's the full truth, and sometimes it's the truth for yourself, depending on the topic. So right now there's all kinds of things, and we know that there's propaganda, we know that there's misinformation, and that's why it's such an important thing to do at this time, is to really sit with different things. It doesn't mean you can't go down the rabbit hole, you can, but when it starts to take over your thought process and it starts to interrupt your interactions, or it begins to cause fear, then we know that we need to discern more about that for ourselves. Sometimes that means shutting the laptop, closing down Facebook, whatever we need to do to really become centered, because to know absolute truth, or even our own truth, we need to come to a point of silence within, so that we can hear what is actually coming from our self and our soul, or our higher spirit, or our higher divine guidance, whatever it is that you connect to, that helps you to be one with your own spirituality, or with nature, or however your beliefs are that keep you centered in your day-to-day life. In many religions and philosophies, there is a practice of discernment. And Thessalonians in the Bible, it says, "Do not quench the spirit, do not treat prophecies with contempt, but test them all. Hold on to what is good, and reject every kind of evil." A Buddhist philosophy would be more towards studying yourself. You know, when we put ourselves out in the world and we're so busy grabbing onto this idea and that idea, that's where the neglect comes of studying our own spiritual self and our own ways of thinking and ways of being, and we can get caught up in this storm, if you will. And then that ties into a yogic perspective of really being still and centered. And we often use the image of being a flower, a lotus flower in a pond, and we might be dirty and there's all this muck going on around us, and we're in the middle of this pond with all this action going on beneath us, and there's everything above us. And there might be this storm, a tornado that comes through, but that lotus flower remains unaffected. And that's the beauty of being still and finding that discernment and taking time for that for yourself. So what are some ways that we can use discernment, practical ways? Well, this ties into our intuition. Our intuition is the best guide when it comes to discerning fact from fiction, from discerning if something is propaganda, from discerning if something is misinformation. And we know that misinformation comes in four major ways. You know, we know that people they can profit from giving you misinformation. There's people that just like to misinform to stir the pot. There's definitely people that are not, you know, meaning to, but they're misinformed themselves. And then there's people that are having some type of agenda. They're going to benefit something. So they might not be the big money makers, but they're the supporters behind this movement or an ideology that can be being pushed by giving this misinformation. So the first thing we want to do when we go to discern something is we want to go inside and see how that resonates with us. So if you tell me that disclosure is happening, and we know recently there's a video that came out. Well, that video also came out in 2017, according to my son, but I do remember seeing it back in the day. So for me, it's just not a full disclosure. Yes, they're admitting that they have this video, but does it mean that the aliens are going to land on the White House lawn? I'm not going to go that far. And really, you know, it doesn't matter if they do, because again, it comes back to the stillness that's within myself and my spirit, that I'm going to handle myself accordingly, hopefully, or to the best of my ability, no matter what happens. And so that's that swirl that's going on around us. So if it doesn't resonate as truth for me, or there's something in there already, I can discern and kind of mix that up. So I don't think, and I'm not panicked and hanging out on rooftops with signs saying, come get me. Next thing is fear. So fear is when we hear something like a lot of what's going on with this pedophilia. It makes us afraid. It makes us afraid for children. It makes us afraid that there's this type of person in the world. And, you know, we want to get to the bottom of it. And then it's like, when we get to the bottom of it, what are we going to do? And how can we, you know, be a positive influence or take a stand or do something constructive to help this? And that's a very legitimate feeling. But when that fear comes up, we need to assess that fear. What is driving that fear? And so instead of spiraling within this fear and this hurt and everything that we are, we can actually take action by discerning and kind of moving the murk out of the way so that we can see the situation clearly. We know the facts of what's, you know, really the bottom line here of what's happening, and then we can take appropriate measures to speak about it or to do something about it, to donate money towards a cause, or to actually, you know, depending on your skill set level, if you can actually get involved in the physical aspect of helping these people do positive work in the world. The next one is to hear something. You know, sometimes we hear a voice, or it's inside of our head that's not quite ours. Maybe it's our higher self, maybe it's something coming from somewhere else and we're not quite sure, but we know with certainty that it feels comforting and that it's telling us something positive, because when that voice speaks, again, we go back to that feeling and there's no fear associated with that feeling. It's a positive, loving force. And that's usually the way that it's going to go. If it's something that's coming from your higher self, your divine source, or just your spiritual self, it's not going to be held in an energy of fear or contentment or anger, because it might make you angry at first, but once you discern something, it's when you're going to find that motivation of the truth, and then that's going to give you proper action moving forward. Another level of discernment can come in another intuitive way, and that is through synchronicities or coincidences, however you believe them to be. And this is where we're not saying the same thing in the same place, but it's information coming to us. We're seeing it actually in front of our face, or we're seeing it affect someone personally. We're talking to people, which is again back to hearing something. So it's hearing and seeing and feeling and knowing are four of the ways that we're going to be able to use that discernment to make sure that we're knowing the truth of something. And the last part of discerning goes even further into the intuitive side. And that is when we have something that's synchronistic or coincidences that keep happening over and over and over again. So this could be whether you're hearing it, seeing it, smelling it, feeling it, or that you're dreaming it. And that could be dreaming when you're sleeping, or it could be through meditation, it could be through journey work. For example, when I do journey work and I'm going into the ground, so I'm doing a lower level journey, often I'll go through a cave and I end up in an underground river system. Every time I go into this river system, there's always dolphins swimming in bioluminescent water. And it was just the most amazing thing to see that. I've never seen it in real life, so it was just something that I had only seen during this certain shamanic journey practice. And the other day I saw a video and it was actually happening, and it just blew my mind. But that was confirmation for me that something that I saw and something that I was feeling, even though it was in a meditative mindset, was actually based in reality, even though it was something that I had never experienced personally. But it was enough to give me confirmation and validation on the other lessons that came through that shamanic journey. And so sometimes when this information is coming to you, we have to really be open, but that's a positive example, and that's the way that discernment will work. Discernment is going to be more on the positive or realistic side and not so much on the negative. And so we need to really focus towards those kinds of things that keep coming in our direction and less of the negative, because when we're focusing on the negative, we're giving that time and energy to something that we may not be able to do anything about, that may just be passing information coming through that is not relative to our lives or our mission or our purpose. And so we really need to take the time out to sit back, make sure that we're doing both. Like I said before, nothing wrong with going down the rabbit hole, but you have to balance that out. We can't stay in the rabbit hole all the time, or we're going to end up like Alice in Wonderland and we're going to be very confused. So let's take a moment to just do a quick discernment meditation. Just start by closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths. Breathing in deeply all the way into your lower belly. And as you're breathing, start to let your body relax. Find where you're holding that tension, releasing and letting that tension leave. Just keep breathing and relaxing. Letting your eyes close, beginning to soften the muscles of your face. And as your eyes are closed, just gazing forward into that dark space behind the forehead. Keep breathing. And allow your eyes to soften as you gaze into this space. Now, the more that you practice in this space, you may begin to see a point of light or different colors swirling or images. And we want to just watch these images. Being the observer here. And allowing the breath to flow, finding its natural rhythm. And begin to really ground into this place that you're sitting or lying. And become aware of everything around you in that space, in the room that you are. Not trying to identify anything in particular, but just aware, like your eyes are just scanning that space. And then letting that awareness begin to scan outwardly, becoming larger and larger, taking it all in, not identifying anything. just aware. And if you'd like, imagine yourself like that lotus flower. And everything is going on around. But you have this stillness. The breath is moving gently and naturally in and out of the body. Be aware of yourself in the center and still. If you're imagining this lotus flower, imagine the petal of which it sits and the roots of that petal. Very grounded. And though the water may move, you're still very solidly placed in position. Taking your awareness deeper within and grounding. Feel the essence of your natural, relaxed state of being. And begin to let that energy that you feel, that feeling or knowing or sensing, begin to let that expand, contract. Feeling the sense of the edge of yourself, this energetic self, this life energy or pranic energy that exists within and without the body. And as you take a breath in, imagine this energy rising up to the top of your being and flowing out the crown of your head all around you like a golden rain of light, creating this circular energy. It flows within and without you. This is your true energy, your essence, your true life force feeling. Without anything else affecting us going on around. This is the true nature of who you are. If you'd like, you take the palms of your hands together in prayer position. And know that each time you bring your hands to this position, that it will be a reminder of this feeling that you feel right now. The truest expression of who you are when you need to be grounded, when you need to be still, when you need to be unaffected by the world and the circumstance around. Slowly opening your eyes as you're ready. Just noticing maybe even the different tone or color surrounding you. Bringing yourself into the fullest of this present moment and just taking in your surroundings and knowing that you're perfectly safe right where you are. Namaste.